Hello, and welcome back to Conquering Finale. My name is Jason Lafredo, and once again, we are dealing with repeats Redux. We are looking at text repeats again, and specifically the text repeat designer. Another piece of the repeat tool that doesn't satisfy me very much, but we'll start talking about it anyway. So we go into the repeat selection dialog box, and you know that we're dealing with the text repeats in the bottom half of the section, the bottom half of the window here. And, like most of these types of windows in Finale, you can do things like press the edit button, and this will pull up the repeat designer. We can create brand new ones. We can duplicate one and then edit it if we want. And of course, we can delete any one of these. And we can also change the order by using the move up and move down arrows. Now, as I mentioned in a previous video, you do have to be careful about this because these text repeats get a text repeat ID, and the ID is actually pinned to the number where this exists within this list. So this is ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And the ID is important to the targeting for the repeat action. So if you set up a text repeat to go to a text repeat ID and you had moved the order around, then you're going to get jumbled up with your repeat structures because it's not going to go to the right place. So it is kind of important to, once you start using them in particular, just make sure that these stay in the same order. So let's start talking about the actual designer. So let's create a new one. And this is the repeat designer. It looks like a pretty simple window, and it kind of is. We have the repeat text, and we can literally type anything we want. And when we do that, we will get a text repeat that says anything. We can edit that again, go back here. Now, we can set the font for this repeat text, and obviously this is, you just press set font, and you can choose anything you want. So any of these individual text repeats can, be its own font. They're not, all the same font. You can set any of them that you want. There is, however, a default font for this. If you go to the document options and go to the fonts pane, it's the first thing in the text section. It's text repeat, and you'll see this is set to Times New Roman 14 bold. Now we can change this to whatever we want. However, this will not change all of the existing text repeats in that list. It will only change the text repeats going forward, and in that sense, it will only, really all it will do is, if you had created a new one, it just will set this to whatever you had set in the document options. So I didn't make any changes, so it still says Times New Roman 14 bold. Now, for me, the huge problem with this repeat designer is that this repeat text field right here is pretty limited. In most areas of Finale, when you have a text field, you'll get a text menu at the top of the screen. And that will allow you, among other things, to change the font, the size, and everything. But you can also do text inserts and all kinds of other types of inserts. But most importantly, what it does is it allows you to mix fonts, right? So you could actually, if you had a second word, normally in a text field in Finale, you could just select the word there and go into that text menu and choose a different font just for that word. Now, why is that important? Because within these text repeats, the coda symbol and the senyo symbol are actually characters from the Maestro font, if you're using the Maestro font in your files. So the texts are obviously from Times New Roman or whatever, so you can't actually create a text repeat that has more, a word plus the symbol, like coda with the coda sign before it, right? It's actually impossible to do that, except for the fact that it does provide one little somewhat helpful function in the designer itself, which is the next piece of it, which is sort of the most confusing part, I think, because it's like it kind of provides you with half flexibility in some ways. What it will do is if you type a pound sign here within the repeat text window, it gives you the option to replace that pound sign with one of these three things. Now, there's the text repeat ID in target, there's the number of times played, and the measure number in the target. Now, all of these things relate to when you create it. If you select it from here, you're dealing with these things in this window. So that pound sign will get replaced by either the measure number, the text repeat ID number, or the I think it's this value, the play section X number of times, right? Those are our options for replacing that pound sign. So for the to coda pound sign text repeat thing that it has set up for you, what you would normally do, now I know that the coda symbol here is text repeat ID 7. What you would normally do is select this. We're going to jump on past 2, and we're going to choose text repeat ID 7. Now, what this is going to do is it's not only going to jump to wherever that coda symbol is, it's also going to replace that pound sign with the coda symbol. So even though I said that you can't actually mix the fonts in these text repeats, you can to a degree by virtue of using the pound symbol to replace it with another piece of or another text repeat item. But it's still limited because you can't really do 2 of them. So, for example, sometimes I'd rather see DS with the Senyo sign next, Al coda with the coda symbol next. And we couldn't do that because you can't put 2 hashtags in there because the hashtags would just, it would only reference one point. It wouldn't reference 2 different things. So, and furthermore, you can't actually, when you use the hashtags like that, I keep saying hashtag, when you use the pound signs like that, you can't actually, adjust the font size. So sometimes I'd want the Senyo sign to be a little bit smaller in that instruction instead of as large as it is when you see it, back in the piece. We do have this option here. Use this font when you replace the pound sign with the text repeat and ID, but that would be sort of almost useless because the only thing that would happen if you're using the Senyo or the coda sign is that instead of using these actual markings, it would give you whatever this symbol is in the Times New Roman font, and it would give you the percent sign. So again, there's like a piece of flexibility here that Finale is providing with the use this font that's almost, I don't understand, like there's very limited use to that, I think. But meanwhile, they don't give you the flexibility to have mixed fonts in this repeat text field. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox about this. I just think that there's a bit lacking in this repeat designer as far as that is concerned. But the way this does work, we can use this a little bit to our advantage in some cases. And I'm going to set up something here which I think is a kind of a neat trick. So what I'm going to do is actually create a simple repeat here. And then I'm going to add, I'm going to create a new expression, and I'm going to call this play pound sign times, right? And now that pound sign I'm going to have replaced with something. And in this case, I do want it to replace it with the number of times played, right? And when I select this and I start dealing with the text repeat assignment, remember I'm adding this to the second bar here, bar 6. What I want it to do is play the section. In this case, I can set it to play 4 times, right? And then where the target is, I want to go backwards 1 bar. This is an instance where you actually might use the target backwards. I mentioned that there's certain limited use to this. This is actually one of them. So again, going backwards 1 bar will send it to bar 5 in this case. Again, play section 4 times. Now this value, this 4 here, is going to replace that pound sign in that text repeat. So when I click OK, you'll see now it says play 4 times. Now, of course, I probably should... Oh, and incidentally, I should mention that if you right-click any of these text repeats, you can always get directly back to the repeat definition right here. And what I should have done is justify this, and you'll see that it's replacing the pound sign with number of times played, which you saw me set up with 4. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, what happens here because we have 2 repeat items that have actions. The play 4 times is telling us to play this section 4 times, but the regular repeat bar is telling us to play the section 2 times. So isn't this conflicting? The answer is actually no. In this case, Finale will adhere to whatever's higher. So in this case, it will play the section 4 times. You're not actually going to get, it's not going to multiply. So you're not going to get bars 5 and 6 8 times. In fact, just to prove it, I will play this for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, and go on. So that's actually something that that's handy in using that hashtag there, the pound sign. And interestingly, because I have that now, we can use this as many times as we want, and all we have to do is fill in a different number. So if we wanted to, play section 6 times, you can do that, and you'll see that it will change the pound sign to a 6. So we can use the same text repeat to to have different things here. Now, one of the major disadvantages of not being able to mix fonts is that it's really hard to get a symbol that has the coda sign with the coda word after it. And if you think about it, the reason for this is that if you were to create a text repeat that says pound sign coda, trying to replace it with a text ID wouldn't really make a lot of sense, because of you can't target itself, or the text repeat can't target itself, so it doesn't quite work. So for something very simple like having the coda sign with the coda text, really the only way to do this, of course this is a mark, is to add the coda sign there, and then create a new one that just says coda and left justified. Yep. And then this is another mark, and then just just line it up, which is, it's sort of annoying that this is a pretty common thing, but we have to do it in 2 steps. So another just flaw in the way that Finale's handling this. But actually, let's talk about just a couple other things in that window. The enclosure shapes. Now we can enclose these text repeats if we want. We can choose one of these options here, and we'll get an enclosure, and we can edit it. Now, I'm not going to dive into this right now, because I did a whole video on this back in the expression tool videos. In fact, it was video 15-4B, which I'll put a link to at the top of the video here, so you can kind of get back to that if you want. I talk about this enclosure designer in depth, and so you can head on back there if you want to check that out. I won't waste your time again with that. And then finally, we have the justification settings here, and you saw me do a few things with this. We do have the option to justify left, right, or centered. I'm not sure of the usefulness of justifying a text repeat in the center of the measure, but it's available to you if you want. And of note, as I may have mentioned, the justification also controls the alignment for all of these elements too, which is why, the DSL coda, for example, it's not a mark, but the handle is on the right-hand side, and because it's justified right, but the Senyo sign is left justified, so it's also left aligned. So that justification is a little bit more than justification. It's also alignment. We could center align it too, center justify / align it if we really want to, but again, I don't know what the usefulness of that is, but we have the option. All right, so that is sort of the very rudimentary repeat designer. Again, there's some things in here that are to be desired as far as I'm concerned. And there are certain cases where I actually believe that it can be easier or more flexible, at least, to use an expression instead of a text repeat. And I'm going to show you something later on in this series. Might be the last video, I think, where I'm going to show you how to kind of finagle these these text repeats so that they work functionally, but they're we can use expressions instead of the actual text here, which sometimes will look better, at least. So anyway, you have that to look forward to. And I think that's it for the text repeat designer. The next video, I think, is going to be the text repeat positioning in the staff list situation. So come back for that, and we'll go from there. So thanks for watching, and I will see you soon on the next video.